It has been close to 100 hours since Hamas unleashed a barrage of coordinated attacks deep inside Israel's territory. Israeli defense forces have been wreaking havoc across the Gaza Strip, carrying out air raids and calling for a total siege of Gaza. But in these 100 hours, world leaders have been taking strong positions over the war that nobody saw coming, and the lines of division are fairly clear to see. Israel's strongest ally, US, reacted strongly to the Hamas militant group's attack. On October 7th, just hours after the assault, President Joe Biden gave a green signal to Israel's quote-unquote right to defend itself.
You know, when I spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu this morning, I told him the United States stands with the people of Israel in the face of these terrorist assaults. Israel has the right to defend itself and its people, full stop. There's never justification for terrorist attacks.
UK, France and Germany were among the first European nations to condemn the Hamas attack. They too officially backed Israel's right to defend itself.
Wir waren uns auch einig, dass Israel das Recht hat, sich gegen diese menschenverachtenden Angriffe zu verteidigen. Und zugleich geht es natürlich auch darum, eine weitere regionale Eskalation zu vermeiden. Dazu stehen wir in intensivem Kontakt mit vielen Staaten der Region.
Furthermore, on Monday, this was the official position taken by the European Commission against aid being sent to Palestinians. The statement reads, and I am quoting here, "The scale of terror and brutality against Israel and its people is a turning point." As the biggest donor of the Palestinians, the European Commission is putting its full development portfolio under review, worth a total of 691 million euros. What the statement meant is that humanitarian aid for 2 million Palestinians in Gaza was being put under review. But after initial reactions sent the organization into state of disarray, the European Commission backtracked and issued clarification. They say that humanitarian assistance to Palestinians will continue.
So I will refer back to what Commissioner said yesterday. He confirmed that the EU humanitarian aid to Palestinians in need will continue as long as needed. And it's important to recall, of course, that our humanitarian aid is never channeled through governments or authorities. It always goes through humanitarian partner organizations. These are international organizations, UN agencies or NGOs. So this is the way we implement our humanitarian aid projects.
As Western nations maintain their position justifying Israel's need to defend itself, they have missed a small detail in the process. Israel's decision to unleash a quote-unquote full siege of Gaza has also brought upon destruction on Palestinian residential areas, key infrastructure like the Gaza National Bank. That's not all. Israel has blocked the only way out for Gazan Palestinians as hundreds of thousands flee the volatile region. Israeli forces have reportedly bombed the Rafah crossing between the Gaza Strip and Egypt, and this move has locked in Palestinian civilians that are facing the brunt of this war. Meanwhile, as the conflict between Israel and Gaza escalates further, Putin has emerged as an unlikely voice of reason, calling out Washington's failure in the volatile West Asian region and an urgent need for addressing the two-state solution.
Вот, к сожалению, мы видим резкое обострение ситуации на Ближнем Востоке. Я думаю, что многие согласятся со мной в том, что это яркий пример провала на политике Соединенных Штатов на Ближнем Востоке. Оказывали давление на обе стороны, именно на обе, то на одну, то на другую, но каждый раз без учета коренных интересов палестинского народа, имея в виду прежде всего необходимость реализации решение Совета Безопасности ООН о создании независимого суверенного палестинского государства.
His statement also comes in the backdrop of Russia's ongoing war with Ukraine, in which West-led NATO alliance has been instrumental in backing Ukraine's counteroffensive efforts against Russia. The duality of the West in both these wars has put the spotlight on a key question. Why do Western leaders support Ukraine in its fight against a quote-unquote aggressor, that is Russia, but turns a blind eye to the Palestinian plight year after year? The answer to this question may lie in a statement made by Arab League chief Ahmed Abul Gate.
We have seen Western viewpoints focusing on this war and this event only, while avoiding talking about the reasons behind the current situation in Palestine. There is a need to return to a real peace process that leads to the establishment of two states coexisting in peace, safety and stability.
Daniel Levy is the president of the US and Middle East Project USMEP and former senior advisor to the Israeli Prime Minister's office and to Justice Minister Yossi Beilin during the Barak government. Daniel is joining us from London. Daniel, thank you very much for making time for WION World is One and welcome to the program. I'll begin by asking you, many have viewed this war as a split between the world, because if you look at the war in Ukraine and Russia, or the war between Ukraine and Russia, and now this war between Gaza or Hamas and Israel, many would say that it has brought the hypocrisy by Western leaders to the spotlight. Would you agree?
Well, Eric, I don't know if you saw in what a tragic circumstances I cracked a tiny smile as you were posing that question, and I'll explain why if you'll allow me, and it's a pleasure to be with you here today. I was making that very point on CNN a couple of days ago, and I was trying to explain to an American audience, please bear in mind that your credibility is on the line because the rest of the world looks at you and says, how are you applying one standard in one place and another standard in another place? And this is unfortunately the America and the West that we have grown to know, and we're not okay with it. We're not going to put up with it. And the CNN presenter, I hope you don't do the same, Eric, the CNN presenter cut me off. He disagreed and he said, well, we'll end the interview there. Right. But being very serious, this is a cardinal point, and they've fallen into the trap. And you cannot stand up in a very self-righteous way, declare yourselves the upholders of international norms, of the rule of law, of international legality, and then selectively apply that and totally ignore it in one place. And it just got worse in the last hours because some of the statements that you just shared with your viewers, the Israeli government, and the scenes were atrocious of what happened on the weekend. This does not diminish from that whatsoever. But what the Israeli government has now committed itself to doing against the civilian 2.2 million Palestinians in Gaza is to commit a war crime. And while acknowledging Israel's right to self-defense, Israel has to be told that that is within the bounds of international law, and the West and America conspicuously not only failed to do that, but appeared to give a license, a carte blanche for Israel to do its worst and to violate that law.
Daniel, there has been a split. Let's just be honest about it. There has been a split in the world because there are some who support Israel, there are others who support Palestine, and they've said they will not back down. It doesn't matter where they are, even if in America, in Africa, people are split. What do you make of that split?
Well, I think there's different places you can go with that, Eric. Partly we're in a polarized, bifurcating world of blocks. America has aligned itself with Israel for a combination of geopolitical reasons, but also, and this is a very important point not to lose, domestic political reasons. And I think some people talk about America is fighting Russia to the last Ukrainian with very significant consequences across much of the world. In this instance, America may well be fighting the Palestinians, not to the last Israeli, but to the last voter in states where some of the vote around Israel could have an impact, whether it's Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona, Florida, or elsewhere. But if we go back to that global split, sometimes it's about who aligns with America. On other occasions, it's whether people see things through the lens of, to be quite frank, a Western settler colonial quite xenophobic, racist lens,
right.
Where Israel is aligned with the West and Palestine is part of, let's call it the brown-black global South. But what strikes me on an occasion like this is it really so hard to be able to hold two thoughts at the same time? Mm-hmm. One is that what happened was unconscionable by the resistance forces against Israeli civilians, and that is something we cannot let pass by, and we should condemn, and we should find a way to prevent that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, hold the thought that you cannot deny Palestinians their most basic dignity and freedom and allow this to fester and offer the Palestinians no political way out without expecting it to blow up in your face, and that Palestinians also have humanity. Then you cannot turn a blind eye both to what happened before Saturday's events and to what is happening now in Gaza. One has to hold these things together, which is why we have something called diplomacy, and you have political pathways to try and resolve conflicts. But America has taken a pass on that, and America, unfortunately, on this file, has had something of a monopoly. All
right. Daniel, how do you think the world is equating this whole conflict? Because given Hamas did attack first, and then you have Israel, which is now sort of revenging, not sort of, but they are revenging. Most of them, or most people would ask, is this anger justified?
Well, the anger is justified, but you then have to ask the next question, which I'm sure is on your mind, Eric, which is, but does it get you anywhere? Because you're, of course, right to say on Saturday, Hamas launched that attack. But we also are aware that history didn't begin Saturday morning local time over there, that there is a longer history. And Palestinians will ask people to remember, why is there a community largely of refugees in Gaza living expelled from their homes, which were often just across the border, when Israel came in and dispossessed the Palestinians in 1947 to 1949 during the Nakba? And why has Gaza lived under a blockade for 15 years? So what I think is important to ask is not who escalated at any given moment.
Right.
But the question is there a way out of this? And the way out of this is not, it's just not going to be a military solution. So the question that I think is not being asked enough, but it's the right question to ask, is Israel will do its worst. Hopefully it won't be as bad as many of us fear. Hopefully it will stop. But then what do you do? And the thing that that people are perhaps largely unaware of is, as much as everyone's saying Hamas, terrorists, and what they did was horrendous, Israel, for the last decade and a half,
right,
while Hamas has been the de facto governing authority in the Gaza, and certainly for the last 10 years, has agreed, often through third parties, has agreed a series of not only ceasefires but calm arrangements called tahdiyas with Hamas. So Israel knows that you can make political understandings, but rather than Israel or its allies testing, can you carry those forward? Can you actually have a political plan? Israel has rejected having a political plan, and that unfortunately means we're
Daniel,
fated to repeat this.
I am so sorry. I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
Not at all.
I wanted us to continue this conversation, but we are out of time. I've been talking to Daniel Levy. He's the president of the U.S. Middle East Project, USMEP, and former senior advisor to the Israeli Prime Minister's office. Thank you, Daniel, for talking to us today.
Thank you, Eric.